I am Ayanthi Philip. Welcome to the new series, Elevate. Elevate is where we bring gurus and experts from various fields. Join me in this new series. Dian Gomes was well known for his unconventional management style. He led very large teams and was solely responsible for people in leadership positions today. Welcome, Dian.
Thank
It's
you.
such a privilege to have you here today. Thank you so much for coming.
Great to be here.
So, Dian, tell me, I would like to ask you a very sought-after leadership question, right? Are leaders born or are they made?
I think it's a mixture of both. Sometimes your DNA or your personality helps you, but it is the skills that you acquire over a time, the experiences that you acquire over a time will stand you as a leader. I don't think the traditional models of because you are born to a X family or Y position that you come from makes you a leader.
Yes,
that doesn't work in the long run. But if you have the certain credentials, maybe the experiences and your leadership skills acquired over the time will make you successful.
So, acquiring these leadership skills, if you take yourself back to your youths and the start of your career, what harnessed and honed your leadership skills?
I think the first one, I would say my father was a banker, but I lost him when I was about 12 years. So that made my life completely different with being having a single parent. My mother was a very consistent, hardworking lady, although she was not educated as my father. That gave me a lot of freedom and I had to experiment with myself. In school, I was always very anti-establishment guy. I used to cut school and run riot. But later on, I became disciplined. So that was my first beginning in my early stages. Then when I joined KPMG to pursue my accounting career, I got a good mentor, Ranjan Sivaratnam. Both of us are today serving Nestle's on the Nestle's board. He was a great mentor. So he taught me the basic things in corporate life. Very good mentor, even today for me. So that gives me that kind of experience in my very early stages. I would say my teenage days. But once I really became a chief executive in my early 30s at MAS Holdings, which was a small company at that time. I would say a $6 million company. And when I retired, it was virtually a $2.5 billion company after 20 odd years. The experiences that I got, made me stand strong because I had to manage a three-way joint venture with Victoria's Secrets, Cotal's Textiles and MAS. A large number of teams and large number of people. I was ultimately responsible for over 40,000 people. And then as a group director to a much more number of people. Living in Pannala, all these situations kind of by trial and error, I got exposed.
Okay.
Of course, with the experiences, after I qualified as an accountant, the company sent me on training to Harvard Business School and Wharton Business School and some of the best universities.
Yes.
So I learned the skills there as well. But practicing the skills, I had the courage to do it. I don't know where that came from.
Okay.
I always wanted to try it and I always wanted to make a difference to people.
Okay, so you say courage, making a difference to people. So would these be your driving philosophies or driving principles?
I think so. But the initial background also came from Royal College, where we had very affluent people's children there, and so were the middle class. and so the poor people. So it was a mixed bag of people from from different backgrounds,
Right.
and also different religions,
Yeah.
different social backgrounds and all that. And that also gave me a good understanding of life early in my school career.
Right.
And choosing boxing. So all these things kind of gave me a good mixture of a formula for leadership.
Okay, so you speak about boxing, right?
Yes.
And you're heavily involved in the sports arena. And I understand sports was a very large part of your ethos. How did it help?
I think my school career in sports, I understood even at Royal, although it had a 100-year boxing history, was earlier in the early era, was practiced by a very affluent class of people.
Right.
The Danton Obesekarers, the Greys who went to Cambridge, Oxford, and got their blues there. And during my era, it was very tough sport. Very few people wanted to try it out, and mostly majority of them came from underprivileged backgrounds. So I understood what it takes for you to win, because once you're put in there, you're all by yourself and you win on merit. That was the most important thing I learned in boxing, meritocracy. So subsequently, and to understand defeat as well. And there were times that I lost more, although I was Sri Lanka's junior flyweight champion. I lost more times than I won. And I understood what it takes to win, to understand defeat. So when I kind of started creating cultures, I realized taking athletes was a much more fulfilling thing to teach leadership. Because first thing is they understand defeat. There's the single athlete who has been winning, every event, whether it's any sport, whether it's athletics, whether it's boxing, whether it's tennis. You don't win all the time, you lose.
Yes.
You understand what it takes to come back after winning.
Okay.
So when you put in a corporate situation, they would most probably gear early in their life to understand defeat and come back, and come back to it. And there's a critical leadership skill in there called resilience. So you need to understand resilience. And if somebody comes and says, okay, I'm resilient because I've got 4 A's in my A-levels and I've gone to the best university in the world, but how do I know how resilient you are?
Yeah.
But if they tell me that I captained my school in any sport, and if I just check his record, and I realize this guy should be resilient. So you can make a marker saying he will be resilient. He can take a tough fight, and he can come back.
Yeah.
So
And you need resilient, tough people.
yes,
obviously, in leadership.
yes, leadership. Because you have to make tough calls, and if you can't make tough calls as a leader, then that won't count. Because there are a lot of leaders who can't make hard calls, and then you become a politician. So corporates need good leaders, not politicians.
Yeah. So when it comes to recruitment,
Yes.
and if there is a potential candidate, is this what triggers you? What triggers you to think this person will be an asset to the organization?
There are so many things that I look at. When I was at MAS, we have a lot of theoretical stuff put in because you need to go through a process. So the process is you would have Myers-Briggs test, you have Meredith Belbin test, you have numerological test, all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
I just take it as a little advantage, but generally for me it has always been gut feel.
Gut feel.
Gut feel. And if you were to define the gut feel, how the guy walks in, the kind of handshake,
All right.
what's his dress code. I mean, not that I'm trying to be a snob, but what's his style? And the most important thing, you can have all the style, you can have everything, all the pedigree, if I don't pick that he's got the passion to do what he's entitled to do and what he's expected to do, forget it. I won't go beyond that.
Yeah.
He can have a first class from the best university. He can have a nice pedigree.
Yeah.
For me, he becomes also ranks because once you put him in the tough situation of managing people, he will fail. Because if you are looking for a research scientist, maybe that's what I will look at. But if you are looking at a corporate executive, you are looking at the soft skills. You are looking at how he handles the situation.
Yes.
And CV. Everybody is good on the CV because everybody says, I got all the skills.
Yeah.
Communication skills, very good. Understanding the subject matter, very good. If you're an ACA or ACMA, obviously, you have passed your exams.
Yes.
Or, anything what you have done. So for me, it's only an entry ticket to the game. How do you pick the raw nuggets, in their life?
Yes.
So it's experiences. Tell me your leadership experience. When people say, I'm a good leader, I say, show me. Tell me whom you have led.
Yeah.
But they have said, okay, I've led my school's water polo team. I know it's a water polo is one of the toughest, it as bad as boxing.
Yeah.
So I've led the team and I got a record of this. And I've realized, it's a great team sport. And if you have led the team, you have to have some skills of teamwork.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or you have led your school in rugby. You can't just score all the tries by yourself.
Yeah.
So obviously you understand he's done it. So when you have done sports or if you have done drama or if you have done some extracurricular things, it's easy to find out the trades.
Sure.
I never have formal interviews.
Okay.
It has never been my practice to have a formal interview.
Right.
And people generally prepare themselves well for interviews with me.
Yeah.
I never talk about, the subject matter. I never asked an accountant, how to do a consolidation or how to do a balance sheet or anything like that. Never.
Okay.
And because I expected him to know that. Otherwise, he would last a week in a good corporate.
Yes.
So I don't sit on a interview where, I'm opposite him. I sit like this. And I said, okay, talk to me about school.
Okay.
Tell me your experiences in school. Now, he never bargains for that.
Sure.
Because, he's got an MBA from, say, Harvard University, Harvard Business School, and he doesn't expect to talk about his school.
Yeah.
So I ask about it, tell me about your experiences in school.
Right.
What do you think of the school? What do you think of the teachers?
Yeah.
What do you think of life? And I get in to make them feel comfortable. I give them a cup of coffee. And it's a chat. I said, don't think it's an interview.
Yes.
Think you're talking to a friend. We're having a con chat. So I want to tell me, what you like. What do you read?
Yeah.
What are the movies you look at?
Yeah.
And then I will ask, they'll ask, shall we say, Invictus, one of my favorite movies. And then I'll ask, okay, tell me, why Invictus? So things like that, you kind of lead, make the person comfortable. Then you understand where he's coming from. What are his blind spots? If you ask, give me a SWOT analysis about yourself, they memorize that and come. And I know they are conning. So I straight away say, don't bullshit. You are like this. It's mostly gut feel. And I've been pretty successful with that, in that gut feel. But there are drastic mistakes I've done as well.
Okay.
But my success rate, if you look at the corporates of the leaders who run the apparel industry, it's a pretty good record.
Okay. All right. That's amazing. So, okay, so you got the right people on the bus.
Yes.
Then how do you move them on to become managers and leaders? How do you make them leadership ready?
First of all, my favorite exercise to send them to the jungle on outward bound.
You send them to the jungle?
Jungle.
Okay.
Because 25 of them, and that 25 also will be mixed with our one of the people from the union,
Okay.
our employees council, who is not a management trainee,
Yes.
not an executive position,
Right.
maybe one or two of them. Because leadership must go across the board, not at the senior management level. Everybody must be a leader.
Yeah.
Then you pick two or three from them.
Right.
Then you'll pick one or two experienced people with them, who's kind of very unorthodox. So you pick a mixed bag of them.
Right.
And then we pick our own teams. Everybody's given the same t-shirt, same track shoes, same track suits.
Yes.
And so you're first among equals.
Okay.
And sometimes you might have a senior manager with the junior management trainees. So the 30. And then we have kind of fixed it like that.
Okay.
Then we have observers and we send them to the jungle. And, so there are a lot of leechers, there are a lot of abseiling.
Yeah.
So you check the people out. You create a culture of team leadership. Because I can still remember a very unorthodox situation. These are real life stuff. We had to make 2 boats made out of rafts actually, rafts.
Okay.
Out of bamboo.
Okay.
So they are given the bamboo sticks. We have to tie them up. We
Right.
make a raft, and then we have to, row it down the river for nearly 1.5 kilometers. Now, I had in my team, I had a STF young officer, very tough guy, who's fought in the war. Now, Suren has played rugby for St. Thomas's and rowing and all that stuff. He was, leading right in front, and there were about 4 girls. Now, we had about 6 or 7 in the raft, and we are rowing. Slimline blues and slimline goals. Now, it's like a rowing race because it was a very competitive place.
Yes.
Halfway, I felt tired. Now, I'm the chief executive, little privilege. I put the oars down, and so did the girls. Our boss put the oars down, and now the raft is going all over the place. Shikera from the front, from the back, actually he was at the back. He's saying the guys in front either row or F off from the boat. I look back. This 26-year-old man is shouting at me, a 40-year-old chief executive, either row or F off from the boat. Now, I would have never done it to my boss. I looked back, I said, yes, the guys in front either row or F off, And I took the oars, the bamboo, and started rowing, and so did the girls.
Yeah.
Now, that is what you call situational leadership. In the early days, you groom people up. You test them. You test to challenge the process.
Yes.
That's how you create leadership.
Yeah.
And you have to do it. And you have to be humble, you have to be human, and you have to be their corner man. Because if you are not their corner man, they won't go forward. They are scared. It's the same thing which I practice as Sri Lanka's boxing corner man. When I go to the corner, when he sits down after a 3-minute rest, I take the gum shield out, I wash the spit, I stop his bleeding, and the last 30 seconds I tell him how to fight. And that's my toughest job as a leader, not anything else. Corporate life, you don't make split decisions. This is Olympic Games.
Yes.
And I had 30 seconds to tell Anuruddha how to fight, and we lost. And when he loses, how do you pick him up? To say you lost the damn thing? You don't say that. So as a leader, it's a evolving practices, experiences. And I've been a tough boss to work, because I'm very volatile, not now. And I would scream and shout. And I'm the only one I think, out of those 100,000 people who can swear and get away. I think today, in the real context, most probably I might get few cases on harassment. But, they had that faith in battle.
Yes.
You can't be, being a little pussycat. So you kind of groom them up.
You groom them up. And so you're their boss. And from what you say, you are like a father figure to them, counselor, advisor. Do you think you were all of those things?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me nearly 27 years to realize when I said goodbye to nearly 50,000 people, how they reacted.
Have unconventional interviews and trust your gut feel as a leader
Yes.
and put your team to the test
Yes.
and observe them, would you say? Keep observing them, put them to the test all the
Yes.
time.
But initial years, you must find who will be the champion.
Who will be the champion? Who
You
will
know,
be the leader?
Who will be the leader? And it's in my mind. So I take, say, if you take in terms of Anuruddha Ratnayaka, when he fought in the school for Vidyaratana, I said, when I saw him fight the first time, and when I saw him fight subsequently, just before I was getting involved in boxing at the SAF Games to win a bronze as a schoolboy, I said, one day he'll get for Olympics. People laughed at me. We had not qualified for Olympics for 40 years. And I was not a soothsayer. But I said, he's going to be a star one day. The people I picked like that were all stars. And so in the corporates. And I said, one day he will, be a group CEO of MAS Holdings. A guy like Suren Fernando, who was my management trainee. I've realized it. He had the traits, the consistency. That is one thing that you need to look at over a period of time. Consistency, values. That makes a great leader. People tend to take shortcuts. They think they can align to the bosses. They can say the right thing. But it's a matter of time, one day they get exposed.
Right.
When you put in the situation, they'll get exposed.
Okay.
And that puts a huge risk for the corporate.
In your closing statement, what is your advice you will give to the corporate leaders in Sri Lanka?
Pick people who are better than you. That's have been always my motto. So always pick people who are better than you and build a team, build a culture. Leadership is not a responsibility of an individual.
Yeah.
Leadership, you need to build across the board. At the worker level, at the junior management level, at every level. So it's a very rich company which will sustain, a storm. That's my advice.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dan. You're watching Elevate with Ayanthi Philip. Our venue sponsor today, Elegance Offices. Thank you.